Springtrap, is that Gucci? Yeah, that's a good audio test. That's a normal thing that people do, right? Hello, 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 hello. That should work. I'm gonna go a little bit like this because I'm gonna be a little further away. Today I'm talking about Matt Walsh. I need my notes for this. This is a very serious. I'm a college student. I take my college education seriously. I really don't know what happened to me. I don't know. I really can't say. I can't say what happened to me. I don't know. Don't ask why I'm wearing a jacket now. I'm not gonna go full video essayist with this and just like completely go overboard and tell you the entire history of Matt Walsh's life, but I do want to give you a brief little synopsis of the basics. Matt Walsh was born in 1986 in Baltimore County, Maryland, before he started a radio show in Georgetown, Delaware. Before he went to Rehoboth, Delaware? I don't live in Delaware, I'm sorry. Before he got sick of the entire place altogether and moved to Kentucky and made his own radio show where, what matters is that before he eventually quit radio forever, that's a direct quote because he got canceled by being conservative. We'll get an idea of what that means later. Transphobic. In 2017, he became a writer for the Daily Wire, and in 2018, he created his own YouTube show, The Matt Walsh Show, or something. I don't know. I don't respect him. I can't be fucked to say the name of his show correctly. And then just 4 years later, is that 4? I can't do math. 21, 22. On June 1st of 2022, Matt Walsh released a movie. A film? No, it doesn't deserve a hit piece. Very classy of you to release that in June of 2022 as well. That's Pride Month. That's so classy of you, Matt. That's such a nice touch. Now, I don't want this video to be too lengthy, and I don't want it to be too sad, and I don't want to go too in-depth because I'm not really a professional. I'm not really here to be professional. I made this video for 2 reasons. One, I need to make a creative project for my GSS gender and sexuality class, and I am running out of time. And 2, I wanted to be on camera. I wanted to practice being on camera. And the secret third reason is that I'm crashing out and I don't know. Here we go. You gotta start. Matt Walsh's What is a Woman is a really interesting film to talk about because it doesn't really take itself seriously as a documentary. Like, it claims to be this wise and deep thought piece about gender and sex and all these ideas, but it ultimately just basically is like, oh, it's not that deep, bro. For instance, my favorite example of this, like, fake deep kind of thing that I'm describing here is in the very opening of the film where Matt Walsh is sitting there, like, pontificating. Oh, yes, what is gender? What is sex? I don't know what any of these things are. It's such a mystery. As he proceeds to have, like, a bunch of kids on the floor, and the girls are playing with pink toys and the boys are playing with blue toys. Like, he didn't give all those props to those kids, and like there wasn't a costume department for that scene. Like, he's implying that they chose that because it's natural. We'll get to that whole natural thing and that idea of truth telling in a minute here. I'm just kind of building the atmosphere. The documentary, if you can even call it that, also uses a lot of manipulative editing, which is just the hallmark of a really great and honest documentary that's trying to do a good thing for the world. I need more Monster Energy. Much better. But yeah, if you go look up anything about this documentary, one of the first things you'll probably find is a bunch of testimonies from people who were basically tricked into being in this documentary. Gender and sexuality researchers, trans people, even young trans girls that Matt Walsh took advantage of, you might say groomed, to be in this fucking movie. Real tasteful, Matt. Real cool. Real awesome of you to do that. And ultimately, the entire documentary kind of has this air of inauthenticity and just like slimy kind of like spitting on a group of people. I wonder which group of people in particular. Because it has no authenticity. There's no genuinely sense that they want to find the truth or that they want to... Sorry, I shouldn't be using that word. There's no sense that they actually want to document or do anything with any kind of journalistic intent. It's actually so messed up that there's multiple points throughout the film where Matt refers to himself as a detective, like someone was murdered. What are you talking about? Also, to be a detective, you had to actually come to any kind of conclusion yourself, which, as you can see by the end of the film, he doesn't. He just uses manipulative editing, manipulative interviews, straight up lies from people that claim to be professionals but are actually just professional liars. And ultimately, it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Like, even if I step back and just try to be as objective as possible, even objectivity doesn't exist, it's just not a very good documentary. It's not really documenting anything. It just kind of feels like an extended episode of Matt's show. And that's not, please don't take that positively. I don't mean it positive. This dude sells plushies of himself as a baby. I don't know if you understand. I don't know how to include this. Me in editing, you can figure out a place to put this, I guess. But he sells plushies of him in a diaper as a baby as a joke. Weird sense of humor you got there, Matt. Ultimately, the entire documentary just kind of falls into this pit of hurtful truth-telling. Like, again, Matt refers to himself as a detective throughout the film, but he doesn't actually seem interested in helping anybody, in finding a piece of information or revealing things or like actually discovering anything about people. He just wants to hurt people indirectly. So he didn't do anything. He's just telling the truth. And if the truth is that you shouldn't exist, then that's fine. Making videos is really hard. Making videos is so hard, y'all. One of my favorite moments in the film is when Matt Walsh interviews Patrick Gazanka. I'm so sorry. This is one of my favorite moments in the film because it's one of the only times that someone Matt Walsh is interviewing actually pushes back on any of his arguments, and it just makes for one of the most interesting moments in anything I've seen in a hot minute. I'm not going to show any of the documentary here because I don't want to get shot, and because it's boring, and I can just describe it to you and be much more entertaining than you actually seeing it, so I'm just going to do that. Matt is talking with Patrick, a gender and sexuality studies professor from the University of Michigan, and it's basically the only time in the film when somebody directly pushes back against Matt. Matt comes in with a lot of these leading questions. He's trying to get a specific answer that he can use from Patrick out of context to make this overall message of that trans people are some sort of mental illness or criminal or manipulative or all these other lovely terms. There's overall a lot of insinuations of lying, with the implications of truth-telling. Like there is a simple binary, a simple dichotomy, as I referenced to earlier, between man and woman, cheese, potato, cheese, potato, cheese, potato. You can only pick one. There's no other option. You can only eat one of those for the rest of your existence. There's even an article by the Tennessee Star that directly talks about that interview with Patrick. And interestingly, it sides with Matt Walsh. That's not the interesting part. The interesting part is that they don't include this one specific line from Patrick that I think is so interesting. And I'm actually very surprised that Matt included it in the final film. Matt says something along the lines of, "I'm just looking for the truth." And Patrick, oh, I love this guy. Sorry, I don't know. I like men. Patrick responds with, "What do you think the answer to that question is?" Which I think is a really great way to respond because there is a bias at hand with Matt framing a lot of these questions in a certain way and trying to get a certain response. He does have a particular idea of what the answer to that question is. He just doesn't want to say it himself. He wants someone else to say it out of context, clipped, edited, snipped just the right way so that it can fit his argument. This is not a documentary. This is a sham. This is sad. It's no wonder that 2 years later he went on to try and make a comedy, Lady Ballers, which is a piece of fiction about a time that the Daily Wire tried to sneak a bunch of men into women's sports as some kind of commentary on how trans people are liars, and it didn't work. They didn't get away with it because they weren't allowed to, because they were so obviously just being assholes. Great job, Matt. Oh yeah, and then he made another documentary called Am I Racist? I bet you can figure out the answer to that question. And just another bit of highlight here at the end before I get to the more positive stuff. There's also a part where he specifically calls out the book It's Perfectly Normal, a children's book with some kind of explicit cartoon images of kids being sexual, because it's a book about sex education and it's trying to teach young people about sex education so they can be educated and safe. But I guess Matt hates that. I guess it's disgusting and awful to educate youth about sex. I love the times we live in. I'm not crashing out at all. I'm actually fine. On a little bit of a lighter note, and what is probably going to be the title of this video, I have a reverse question to ask Matt Walsh in response to this documentary, and probably a movie that he will never fucking make. Matt, what is a man? No, really. Because in your documentary, you answer the question of what is a woman. Well, sorry, you don't answer the question. Your wife answers the question as a biological human female, which Jesse Gender, a video that I am thinking about a lot when I'm making this, made an excellent hour-long video dissecting this entire documentary. If you want something a little deeper and more substantial, I highly recommend that. Jesse Gender makes the really great point of that what was I saying? Jesse Gender makes the really great point that biological human female is a series of words that have such complex meanings and are such an abstraction that it's extremely difficult to actually say what that means for real. It's yet another cop-out, yet another thing that Matt can be like, well, I don't know, it's complicated. But in fact, he is dismissing this entire thing as nonsense by doing that, which is kind of disgusting. More than kind of. It's extremely disgusting. So again, what is a man? I've spent so much of my life asking this question. I'm a queer young guy, if you can't tell. There's been a lot of discussion recently about the male loneliness crisis, which is something that I have actively watched happen because of men directly in front of my eyes. And then they come crying to the internet like, what do we do? We've been terrible this whole time and now there's consequences. Oh no. But really, it is seriously a problem, and not just because the men are so sad, but because people like this fall into terrible holes and then do terrible things or become awful. Do I need to say it? Do I even need to say it? I can just put a picture of them on screen, can't I? People like this are created by isolation and by hating themselves and being driven to a specific way of thinking that is honestly bad in any context. Just think for yourself. Get off your phone and go look outside. It's beautiful. I'm using natural lighting right now. It looks great. I feel great. Men are a very complicated issue, and as a queer person, it's incredibly complicated because at once I hate it, but at the other hand, I am very committed to wanting it to be better and being like a good role model and person. And so, as a little bit of a positive send-off, I want to talk briefly about how men don't have to necessarily be directly linked to testosterone, directly linked to aggressiveness, directly linked to this kind of macho, big, chunky, beat the shit out of anyone that does you wrong, or otherwise use physicality and violence and intimidation to get your way, when that's bad, actually. Ooh. Hot take. Maybe don't beat people up. But seriously, I think it's really important now to not just say, like, be better, but also say specifically, listen to people. Actively take time to stop and listen to somebody else and think about their perspective and just put a little bit of effort into living, guys, any guys watching this video, just try and listen, please. But just to name a couple of male role models in my life that have done a lot for me, they're coincidentally all YouTubers. Whoopsie! Billiam, Ryan Hollinger, Jacob Geller, James A. Janice of Dead Meat, and that entire team, honestly. Danny Gonzalez, Drew Gooden, Curtis Connor, and Deck from Predator Badlands. No, I'm not joking. I will make an entire video about him. You can't stop me. But thank you so much for watching this, if you did. And if this on camera kind of format is like actually entertaining and it comes out okay, let me know if I should do something like this again. I'm not like huge on commentary, but I wanted to try something like this because it's a passion of mine. If you can't tell, I like being on camera. I like performing and being a little silly. I take a lot of inspiration from the people I watch. So if you want to see more stuff like that